the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
Welcome back to the Hishaku Hideout, a weekly podcast where we talk about the latest chapter and everything Kagurabachi. I'm here with Dice.
Yo.
And today we're getting into chapter 114, and what a chapter it was. The freshest, MFer alive. Subaru got that shit on for real.
You said the freshest MFer alive, and for a second I thought you were talking about Kunishi, and I was like, fresh would not be the word I would use.
That's the freshest crackhead alive, bro. That's the freshest crackhead alive for real. That dude,
yeah, that's more appropriate.
They're like, yeah, this is basically here's my bum friend, but he makes fire ass swords. Come on, Mashiro, trust me.
He's cool, I promise. You'll see.
Yeah. He got this thing with this baddie named Chiaki too, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah.
But yeah, there's quite some stuff to get into there for sure. Yeah, I mean,
I guess before we get into the conversation, I do want to remind everyone, because I'll never do this at the top of the episode, and I'm doing it now. Subscribe to the channel. We're like 33 subs away from 500. Then that's when we can, start at least getting the first level of monetization unlocked, and then, that opens up more doors. So y'all make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. And, we're planning on talking about getting an actual community Discord server and things like that. So that can't happen until we hit 500, though. Let's make it happen. My bad, Dice.
Yeah, appreciate y'all. Yeah, man, let's get started, right? The name of the chapter, Kunishi Rokuhira. So we know exactly what we're getting into. Is there anything you like, anything you want to start with specifically, or you just kind of want to run through the chapter like we always do?
We can just run through the chapter.
Cool. So yeah, I think, well, at least for me, the first big piece of information we kind of get this chapter that goes a bit against what we saw the last chapter is that Kunishi isn't that famous by the looks of it, right? Like he did forge Mashiro's sword, which is something that even Mashiro didn't know. But yeah, we also get told that he rarely sells weapons or sold weapons, so he's basically a nobody. Like literally nobody knows about him, right? We saw how the government officials kind of spoke about him, but it doesn't seem like he's that notorious, so it seems like only a few people have that information, really.
And I don't know if it was like that was kind of not the best translation. I didn't really look into it that much. Last chapter, like maybe arms dealer might have been just an extreme like choice of words, because we know he didn't really sell any swords. Like this dude he's literally the closest thing to a bum you could be. Like he is a crackhead that makes swords, but he don't want to sell none of them. So I mean, I guess like this is kind of going to be fun to see the reveal of Kunishi Rokuhira to the world. Not this like legendary swordsmith that came in through in a clutch, a revolutionary that saved Japan. Sure, there's a argument to be had, but without Kunishige, inclusion in the war, Japan would be, at least from what we know now, Japan wouldn't even be, what it is today, in their world, obviously.
Yeah, and like it could have just been the government official just kind of painting him with that brush, right? He could have just been on some sort of list, right? And like it doesn't necessarily have to be notorious, but it could have just been like the little information that the government higher ups or officials have on him, and so like I said, they just painted him with that brush. Yeah, as well.
Like hubris on their part, like, oh, we bought the best of the best in. So if he was that good, we would have found him already. Like, so that's just some little fuck around that out in the boonies.
Yeah, no, that's actually, I think that's pretty accurate, right? Considering what we see this chapter in regards to another swordsmith that we meet, right? Which we'll get into, and how he's glazed compared to what we see from Kunishige and the way we've seen people talk about him. So I definitely think it's some of that as well, for sure. So
yeah, like imagine this, like we've been waiting on this flashback, right? And we're told that in the first two chapters of the flashback, we're gonna meet the one of the three treasures of Japan, and we're not talking about Kunishige like Soga. This straight up, like within the second chapter, we meet Subaru officially. It's like that's his like reveal. Is one of the three treasures of Japan. Like, and this motherfucker Thrag with a sword. Making sushi
with a flat top. Don't forget the flat top.
With a flat top, bro. And sushi chef, swordsmith, and we know he's a sword master because he's touted as such. The sword masters of the war. This dude, the most eligible bachelor in Kagurabachi.
And we'll get there, right? Because I think there is a lot of in regards to like what we can get into with Subaru, right? Just getting back to Kunishige, we know that he started at 12 years old, brutal apprenticeship, right? As it's stated in this chapter, right? And there could be a possible connection with Subaru there. That's just speculation and headcanon at this point. Like I said, we'll get into Subaru more in a bit and how that could be the case and how that could connect to him wielding an enchanted blade and whatnot. But yeah, I thought that was interesting, right? So we have a definitive age of what time, when Kunishige really started getting into swordsmithing. So he's been doing it for a minute, right? And even if he's a whole ass mess, dying of hunger, living like a worse than an uni student, right? Like it is crazy and funny as well to see Kunishige at this stage in his life. Obviously completely different circumstances compared to how we met Chihiro, right? A lot more obviously darker and tragic circumstances in regards to Chihiro. But I'm loving this, man. I'm loving the contrast between those two, right? And how Kunishige is getting done here. I really do think it's hilarious. And I told you, like, Shiba, what a guy, man. He knows his friend is likely hungry as hell, dying of hunger, as he says it. And he just ate before pulling up, has the scent on him, and doesn't like bring any he doesn't bring his friend food. He tells him like, oh, I can give you food if you come with us. So Shiba, again, man, what a guy. Never beating the allegations. I'm telling you, man, what a guy,
bro. I've been saying it from chapter 1. I'll say it at chapter 201, 301. Shiba ain't shit. Like, started off as a Soga guardian. What does one of the Soga people do? Addiction. Wipes out, genocide. And then Shiba becomes the Rakuhira guardian, essentially. And motherfucker failed. 0 for 2. Like, goddamn. We can't, don't give this dude responsibility. And then Subaru, like, talking about like the apprenticeship that Kunishige was under, or what he was going through, like young, learning the way to craft a sword. And it's kind of painted like, most theorists are gonna say it's Subaru is the one that, trained him and all that, was his master, which very well could be the case. And it would kind of make sense that he also ain't shit. Like, dudes with that look like that most likely are assholes. You know what I mean? The dude, like, he looks like he could be a state trooper, like a cop. You know what I mean? Like all that aura just to be a dickhead. But hey, he got that shit on though.
Oh yeah. It wouldn't be crazy at all, right? Let's give him a chance though. Let's give him a chance though before we start dunking on the man. I might like
him more if he was an asshole. There's something about an asshole that just kind of gets you like excited about, like girls love a bad boy. Like, yeah, I love when he tells me I ain't shit. I love when he calls, it moves me. Maybe I might like him more like that. Hey, people love Toji and Naoya, so.
God, brother. On a different note, I do think it's pretty funny that it seems like Hokuzono thought to himself, like, how many times do I want to draw Kunishige just looking ugly as hell in this chapter? And he just said yes, because like how many damn panels do we see here of Kunishige just looking like a savage, like you said, a crackhead, whatever the hell you want to call it, any derogatory term, almost fits here, because
he doesn't look like a father. He doesn't look like the
Anything
man
for-
that's gonna like be help produce the savior of Japan. He doesn't look like that, but he looks perfectly imperfect Kunishige Rakuhira.
I love it though. Like on a serious note,
A savannah sword making. That's who Kunishige is.
yeah, I do like, again, on a serious note, like I do like this. I do like how he's being painted in this light, and just like I said, the contrast between him and Chihiro. I love it. I'm here for it for sure. I mean, and I hope we stick with it and see like how he kind of turns into the guy that we met back in chapter 1.
The only panel where Kunishige looks like a decent human is when he's literally got that crack rock in his hand and he's fucking with it. He's holding up a lighter to it. Like, I got a homie that does shit like that, and that dude's a volunteer firefighter. That's bad news waiting to happen. That dude, like, you know what I mean? But like, he is like a savant, you know, to a certain degree of like, he can't really do shit. He can't really take care of himself. He's just kind of like what seems logical almost kind of like escapes him, because like, you know what I mean, he just doesn't have like normal, like he doesn't move like a normal person. Like, we see Mashiro's like, this dude's like a feral dog. Shiba's kind of like just knows how to tame him. But every panel of him is legit like, throw the fuck off, until he starts to hold the Datan. And I'm not saying because he like interacts with the Datanseki it puts him at peace. I just mean more like the thrill of crafting a sword with like this new material is like exciting him. So it's like you see him to like his truest form when it's about that. And, you know, like, you could look at like him like raising his son, kind of like tempering a sword, you know, like there, I guess that you could make like some extreme parallels of like, you know, poetic symbolism between like crafting a sword and raising a child, you know what I mean? Like, I could definitely see that happening. And you know, like, that's why Kunishi, like, this was the man that we knew because he was always like taking care of like Chihiro, aka his greatest masterpiece.
I think to what you're saying, I think what that essentially translates to is Kunishige, even in this phase of his life that we're seeing in this chapter, it seems like he's a guy that when it's time to get serious, he can get serious. He can just flip that switch. And, you know, that panel that you just referenced of him holding up the Datsenseki real close to his eyes, you know, we see the Rokuhira eyes at work. We see Mashiro, you know, not jump to the conclusion, more like realize that what took the other scientists and researchers essentially 2 years to figure out, Kunishige figured it out in less than a minute. Right?
This starving crackhead was just like, hey, yo, I can fix that. I know, you know.
Yeah, and like, again, you brought up like that being the one panel where he looks normal. After that, I would say the only panel, you know, among the Chiaki panel, yes.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about that whole moment, like just when he's starting to get that thrill of crafting a sword, like he just looks like the rest of them, like literally is, I mean, this motherfucker, his next panel after the lighter part, it looks like he's about to shit himself.
Yeah, well, I mean, I knew you were just referring specifically to that moment, but I just wanted to kind of like transition to... Yeah, because it's very obviously, you know, it's without even bringing up the whole Princess Soga's prophecy, which, look, honestly, like, there's a lot that we can really get into there. I think personally it would be best if we kind of leave that talk towards the end of the end of this episode, where we can kind of get more into like the speculation and implications of what the Soga clan is really about. What is this prophecy? You know, her being a princess, if we are to take that at face value, essentially that being literal, then what is Akamura? You know, their parents, what did that whole thing look like? So I think we could get into that later and just kind of like let the theories take over that side of the conversation. But it's very evident in terms of what we're seeing that Kunishige already has something for Chiaki, right? And not just the way he's kind of looks, the way he's
something for.
Chill. No,
he shoot that thing for real.
Chill. Yeah, well, you know, he has a thing for her, right? Like, he clearly, and Shiba knows it, right? Because Shiba tells him, And this is again another funny moment where Shiba's like, Chiaki's essentially Chiaki's gonna be there, and he's like, whatever. There's gonna be food though. Bet,
Yeah.
So that's also pretty funny. But
this kind of answers the question from last chapter too. He must already know Akamura.
Yes, I hadn't thought of that. It's very likely now that it wasn't Shiba who necessarily presented them, but he could be like the reason why they end up becoming tight. We don't know what that relationship looks like, right? What if the Soga clan, and this is why I want to leave it for later in the episode, just so we can feel more comfortable about getting to speculation. But we don't know what the relationship between the Soga clan and Kunishige looks like, right? Like maybe they don't approve of him, But again, we can get to that. Oh, me neither. Me neither,
you
brother.
Want him date my daughter? Get the.
Yeah,
I mean, I do think like since we know that they're childhood friends and all that, they haven't seen each other. We don't know exactly how long it's been since they see each other. I don't remember if they mentioned that in the chapter, but it seems like it's been a minute since they saw each other. And they're in their like late, what they're like 19 around that. So. We know Kunishi. So he only saw Kunishi a couple times after he started his apprenticeship. We know he's been doing it since he was 12. They're now like 19, 20-ish. So, that whole time, 76 to 7 or 8 years for Kunishige, like since he's been doing it. And so that must mean that they all knew each other before they were 12, because that, or at least, I think we could jump to that conclusion. So it will be interesting to see like how do these like young kids play into like the dynamic with like this Soga clan, like because they seem like of high esteem, and Kunishige don't really seem like he come from money, but I mean like that remains to be seen because we just don't know if he, what route he personally chose to go in life.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That's interesting, and we also know that Kunishige was like on the verge of just quitting swordsmithing a couple of times, right? At the very least, once from what we saw in panel. So yeah, it is interesting to wonder what that relationship, if he actually knew Akamura back then as well. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting development just to see like this this friend group, and I guess what comes out of that. We don't see the Soga clan, we don't see the Soga clan in the present timeline, like in terms of like an entire clan. And I mean, considering Shiba is like well known, for his like abilities and all that, even at this age, and he's the guardian of the Soga clan. They have to hold like some, immense like political power, or at least standing.
Yeah, I agree. 100% agreed, especially, and I mean, obviously we know that the Sazanami were up to no good, but we didn't see them have any sort of guardian like the way Shiba is stated to be. Like obviously there was the toe or whatever, but I agree with you. I think
that's just nepotism. That's just a nepotism fighting group is all that is.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. But I do like what I'm saying is that I second that. I also think that it's that everything points towards, at least right now, Soga being very much, or the Soga clan rather, being very much integrated and embedded in the government, or just having, like you said, political standing, influence. And again, if there's a princess here, I think the government at this point very likely looked totally different to how the government is moving back in present day. And even then, we don't really know a lot about the government outside of the Kamunabi, right? So it could just, we say this a lot in terms of Hokuzono keeping things close to his chest.
Facts. And, I think like the whole, like, I just personally think the Princess Soga thing, it could just be a nickname between like the childhood friends. You know what I mean? Like, oh, princess, she gets what she wants. She's from the Soga. You know what I mean? Kind of like like just a little
could be
playful nickname they have for her. But I mean, it could also just mean maybe the Soga clan was the first installment of the Kabunabi. Maybe they oversaw sorcery to some degree, and we know Kabunabi did not come to be until the war. We haven't seen the Soga clan present time. If the Soga clan was, you know, however they got, like, whatever happened to them, I don't want to speculate, but, you know, the Kabunabi basically oversaw the sorcery because the Soga clan was no more. You know, the counter sorcery army just kind of, you know, I guess merged into a new organization, taking the Masumi under them and, you know, looking over after everything in terms of sorcery for the country.
Yeah, that's why I said there's like a lot of ways that, you know, there's a lot of directions Hokuzono could take this. So there's a lot that we can speculate on in a bit. But yeah, we do know that essentially Shiba tells Rokuhira to come to Tokyo, you know, to go to Tokyo with them. And man, I really like how we see like Mashiro in that one panel after Kunishige again looking ugly as hell. Mashiro calls him a barbarian, and he's just like looking like a rabid dog. But what I was gonna say is I really appreciate like the subtleness, right, in terms of seeing Mashiro be like, oh, what's gonna happen, and we know exactly what happens, and it's kind of played off in such a light mood here. But we know that what happens is not pretty at all. And again, not that there's much to talk about in regards to this, but like I'm really looking forward to how Mashiro is going to be impacted by this all, and you know what sort of like you know what exactly his Hokuzono has to say with his character, right? Because there's been discussions of him potentially being this guy or being related to this other person. You know, how does Mashiro kind of connect to the overall story of Kagurabachi? Is it just kind of like a more for Shiba's character kind of thing? So I'm also kind of looking at that and seeing how he ties into the malediction and just the overall scope of the war, because he is kind of like the elephant in the room now, in terms of like he's the only character that we know nothing about, that we're kind of cutting back to. Every other character, in terms of at least the ones that are relevant, we know who they are. We've seen at least before, once or twice. So yeah, and again, we talked a bit about, like, we didn't even bring this up yet, but that first panel, or the first page rather, that the chapter starts with is Mashiro. And there are some like sorcery and blade shenanigans going on that are just not even addressed in this chapter. So I think Mashiro is going to end up being really, really important. Again, whether it's for the plot of the Seitei War or more so in terms of Shiba's character arc, we have yet to see. But I think it's very obvious that Mashiro is going to play a very, very big part. And I do think Hokuzono is going to have a lot to say with this character.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think since we're following kind of Shiba through this, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to, you know, like just like see Shiba throughout the whole thing, but considering that's where we started from, it kind of makes me feel like, you know, him taking us around, Hokuzono introducing a character to kind of also tether us to Shiba as a character, so we actually care about who we're following and not just the events surrounding that time. You know, it makes me think that Mashiro is meant for like Shiba specifically, and you know, he'll influence Shiba in maybe a more positive way to you know, going forward, and you know, to, you know, help shape the person that we know Shiba is today. You know, and I mean, that, like I said, it could go any way though. You know, Mashiro could have like long standing and still be in the present time. You know, him and Shiba just aren't close anymore. There's the theories about like him, that Kabunabi higher up. I don't go with I'm not on those theories. I think Mashiro does die in a flashback, but if it's all like to give us a little bit more not that we don't care about Shiba, but just kind of give us something a little extra to care about, like us following him for so long.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about like the Haibara comparisons, right? Like it does seem, at least right now, that could be like a very Haibara coded character. But yeah, but Hokuzono, you know, he's tricky with it sometimes. So though I do agree with you, like I think right now it does look more like this is gonna be a character more that plays into Shiba's character arc, and again how he goes from the man we're seeing here to the man that we see back in present day. and the guilt that he's not potentially, very likely walking around with, all this, we don't really explore what is in Shiba's head. And I wouldn't be surprised if after this arc, especially if Mashiro has a lot to do with that, we go back to the present day and we explore that, full force. What is Shiba carrying, right? We saw a bit of what Kunishige was dealing with. We saw a bit of what Azami was dealing with, even though Azami's thing was more related to Kunishige's death and his desire to kind of, get that back in blood. For Shiba, I wouldn't be surprised if post Seitei War flashback arc, we see everything that he's kind of been dragging, and again, like we're talking about how Mashiro influenced his development as a character.
Facts. Yeah, it'd be nice to get a little bit more like Shiba specific character moments, not anything wrapped up in war, Rakuhira, things. And like now we have like the Soga clan that we can like lend to Shiba. Just in 2 chapters we have like so much speculation for like Shiba's character that's not about Chihiro or Kunishige. It's literally about like his connections with like the Soga clan and Mashiro. Now of course those are all intertwined within like a greater the cosmos of the Seitei War. This flashback is going to do numbers for Shiba's character, and I say that as like not a Shiba fan, but it's going to do numbers for his character.
Oh damn!
Like that brings him to number 1 on a like a ladder up to like 100. He's up to level 1. Nah, let me stop. I gotta throw shade. If I give him some blue glaze, I gotta throw some shade.
I was about to say. It's kind of uncharacteristic from you.
Yeah, the worst guardian around.
Stop it. Let's not.
The guardian with the fuckboy haircut, Togo Shiba.
Well, I mean, I think one thing that I very much enjoy right now is, and I've already touched on this a bit, but I love how these guys are so carefree. Like even when Shiba was looking at Mashiro, like, and he says like, see what I tell you, when Kunishige kind of, when Mashiro, like I said, realizes that Kunishige is him and that there's something about him that he's just able to pick up on this stuff, because obviously Mashiro, at least that we know of, he doesn't know about the Rokuhira eyes, at least not yet. And Shiba's just like looking all smug, like, see? And what we've seen from both Kunishige and Shiba, Kunishige this chapter and Shiba this chapter, as well as the previous chapter, like these guys were moving way different, bro. Like these guys were really about it. They were carefree. They were just doing their thing, and kind of segueing towards the latter part of the chapter, the last 2 pages. We're seeing this guy Hasumi, from the Sorcery Bureau, which I would assume works, if this isn't a mistranslation, this could just be like the counter sorcery army, or these guys at least work with the counter sorcery army or something. I don't know exactly what the connection is here, but even this guy knows what's up with Shiba, right? Like he's calling Shiba isn't picking up because he's meeting with Kunishige, and he knows that Shiba's up to no good. He's like, Shiba, don't do anything stupid, please. Well, guess what? That's exactly what he's doing, right? And so I just love, again, I love the contrast, within these characters, because we've already seen how they behave and move in present day, and what we're seeing now is so different. And again, obviously it makes sense, right? Like we all change, at least, you know what I'm saying? Like we're supposed to, or whatever.
I've always had that dog in me, so I don't know.
It's part of growing up or whatever, but as well as like how the war impacted them. But I very am fucking with this whole attitude that, and this energy, I guess is the word, that these guys are kind of walking around with right now. Because I also talked a bit about this in the previous, episode, in terms of Azami. Like we know Azami, he came up in a family of doctors or whatever, and he's the first one who just started scrapping. He's like, fuck this, I'm gonna use it to throw hands, so like they were all just problematic, right? Like they were all really about that life, and I want to see how that bleeds into the war, and seeing that energy carry into like going to war, and this willingness to fight, even though we know that Shiba's trying to avoid war. I do wonder how are things gonna unfold in a way where like they know like we've reached the point of no return. It's time to go all in. We gotta fight. And so I want to see this energy translate to that and see those guys kind of flip the switch. Again, like I said, Kunishige has clearly demonstrated that when it's time to get serious, he knows how to get serious. And so now that's what I'm itching for, is, like I said, man, seeing that going into the war. Hopefully it's going to be a treat.
Yeah, the facts. And maybe Shiba just didn't want to go to war because he didn't want to have to do any work. I think we should be painting that picture. I'm just playing. I don't even want to slander him like that, but that's some like peak level slander right there. If anybody else wants to use it, you got that.
Go
I'm not
off.
gonna say it, but I'll bring it up at least. But yeah, Kunishige, I kind of, and I like to see the like these, you mentioned like the Rakuhira eyes a little bit ago. Thinking that like there's nothing, obviously like it's a special trait that he passed down to like Chihiro, but in the sense that, I don't know if it's gonna actually be like a talked about thing, or it's just gonna be like kind of oh, he's got as good of eyes as his dad type of thing. Because I mean, if he's not from Shikoku, like sure, like it's a source, there's sorcery in this world, so there could be like a number of oddities of why his eyes are the way they are. But like seeing the reveal to the world just how special Kunishige's eyes, like how special they really are, you know what I mean? Like I'm looking forward to seeing like everyone's reaction on a grand scale as like Mashiro's reaction when he goes there and he just like starts like really blowing them the fuck away when he actually is like fully
locked in,
like he actually ate food. He's like properly, like he has all the nutrients, he's fed, slept, like he actually has like the right atmosphere for him to thrive in, and everyone's just gonna be like at awe of his genius. It's gonna be like, and he also will have the equipment, and it is gonna be interesting though when they say, hey, we do need some more Datanseki. That's the turn I'm waiting on.
Yeah, you might be cooking, because we have seen, like, let's not forget, we have seen young Kunishige before, and I'm not just talking about like the flashbacks between him, Shiba, and Azami fooling around. Like, we saw Kunishige when he handed Kimiyuri, or rather selected Uruha for Kimiyuri, and his demeanor, the way he seems to be carrying himself. Obviously, we hadn't seen this side of him yet, but I think you might be cooking. I think that isn't crazy at all to say that. Again, when things get serious, he locks in and he proves to everybody just, what exactly he's about, right? And just kind of shuts everybody up. Yeah. And it's funny because
just watch.
Literally, and it is funny because I hadn't, in all seriousness, I hadn't even considered that. Like, we're out here dunking on the guy, and he's this and that and looking like this, but like, let's be real, he hasn't ate in God knows how long. Right, so the moment that he gets a nice bed and he's well fed and has some rest and is like taken care of,
that's Chiaki for a little while. Like, hey. That man's gonna start doing numbers, bro.
Yeah, that's a good point. In terms of the other thing you brought up, like the Datanseki, how that dynamic is gonna look like is gonna be very interesting, because yeah, if they don't bring him enough Datanseki, I can see a situation where like he's like, yo, if you want me to produce these kind of results, this is what I need. And that's gonna be interesting to see if the the government or the whoever's running things now, whether it's the Sorcery Bureau, whoever's kind of calling the shots right now, it is gonna be interesting to see if Kunishige, what he tells them is going to directly impact how like the conflict takes place, right? Not saying that it would be Kunishige's fault if he's like, yo, I need more Datanseki, because ultimately it's likely the higher ups that are requesting that he kind of builds these blades when the time comes. There are still like yeah, go ahead.
He might not even know where it comes from exactly. He might not know the situation regarding the volatile existence of Datanseki, in terms of what it means to like the Shikoku, the island of Shikoku. They don't necessarily have to like, I mean, I'm at some point Shiba would for sure tell him. But there's a lot of dynamics that we just don't know right now, and we know Kunishige isn't in like great standing with the higher ups or like the government or anything to like give him such information. They're probably just seeing him as like, oh yeah, he's the real deal, but that doesn't he's on a need to know basis type of thing. He's just a swordsmith that wants to keep creating these swords that's gonna help. So he's like, give me more, and they're like, all right, bet. And then it spirals into this whole thing, and he didn't even and then once he makes them, it's too late at that point.
I'm glad you bring that up, because that's literally what I was about to get into right now. Like, let's not get carried away. We just because we got an extra chapter in terms of like the lore behind the Datanseki and Shikoku and what's going on in this third island, Irishima, let's not get it twisted. There are still a lot of questions left to be answered, right? And to what you're saying, like, I definitely think that we're gonna see at some point Kunishige kind of like, not necessarily get a weird feeling, but I think at some point we're gonna see him kind of like sit down with Shiba and be like, okay, bro, like, I need you to tell me everything you know about this rock. And more than that, I also think that there's more to Datanseki and the whole thing with Shikoku, obviously, that we don't know. But I think we're gonna see that Shiba himself doesn't exactly know everything. And I think that, again, that's gonna kind of have a lot to do with how this whole conflict unfolds, because I don't think Shiba would keep secrets from Kunishige. I think when that conversation takes place, if it does take place, I think Shiba's gonna come clean and tell him everything they know. At the end of the day, if the Shikoku Islanders just pulled up, it's the matter of survival. It is do or die, right? You have to fight back. It doesn't matter if, Japan instigated, yada, yada. It doesn't matter. Like, they are invading. Yeah. We need to fight back. But if there's more behind it in terms of the instigation, then all it really has to do with is, again, like the guilt that these guys end up carrying post-war. Because yeah, they did what they had to do to survive, but at what cost? And on the other side of the fence, did those people have to die, right? And yeah, again, we know that when it comes to war, there's so many things that you can really get into and say, and so I'm not gonna get into all that, but there's definitely a lot that we have yet to know, and don't expect Shiba to know everything, right? So at least that's where I'm at right now. Yeah.
Let's keep it a buck about Shiba here. Shiba ain't that tight with Kunishige. Shiba ain't really rocking with your boy like that. Think about it. Your boy, he's probably like, he might be starved to death. Why didn't you go check on your homie sooner if you think that? Only when
you needed him. Yeah, only when you
need something.
That's crazy.
Let's just call a spade though.
Oh,
like, he knew where he was this whole time. It's not like there was like any like, oh, we need to find my childhood friend. I lost touch with him. No, he's like, I know where he's at. He's probably he might be starved to death, but
let's God.
Just see. So let's just keep it a buck here. That doesn't mean their relationship can't like grow from here.
But, that's like, a good point. Yeah.
You see if a childhood friend, right? So even if, let's say, they know each other from like 5 to 12. If you don't see somebody for like 6-7 years or whatever, like a childhood friend, when you meet up with them again, you're not gonna treat them like a stranger, but you're not just gonna instantly like
ask for favors.
What I mean? Like, yeah, like you're just not gonna be as tight with them. You don't know what they're into now. Like, even if you know like they're a good person or they come from a good family, you're still gonna have questions and be a little bit reserved. So, I just because they're acting chummy here don't mean they have the best relate. I mean, they could. I'm not saying they're not cool.
No, I hear you. I see what you're saying. The
flourishing of their relationship is what I'm looking forward to. Like, for like Shiba to care so much about like defending, Kunishige and Chihiro. Like, I don't want to see people like glazing Shiba this chapter. Man.
Hell no.
I don't want to see nothing like that. Because I know y'all are out there sipping the tip.
Definitely not W man's based off this chapter, but again, you're
manipulator. The guardian who manipulates the people he's supposed to guard.
God,
Shiba. I'm just gonna start giving this man like little monikers. epithet or whatever, like the Guardian that went 0-2.
God giving Hirohiko a run for his money, huh?
Yeah, Hirohiko, if he worked for the Kabunabi.
Oh my God.
Long hair and really don't care. Shiba,
No, man, I think you're cooking, because I wouldn't be surprised if that's how the bulk of their character is explored. And like, yeah, you bring up some really good points that I really can't help but just laugh at. But yeah, man, we could see really that relationship kind of like strengthen, and like you said, like really get to the point that we see it when we see them for the first time in chapter 1 or whatever. And it could just like really take place in this arc, and it could just be the trials and tribulations of this whole thing, right? What really brings them together, and them both potentially being used for interests greater than themselves. Again, anytime you're talking about war and there's resources involved, and it's a lot that we can get into, but when it relates to these characters themselves, I think, I've said it already enough, but I'm really looking forward to how it is that these character arcs develop, and how they influence each other. What you just said right now, their dynamic, their relationship. I'm still waiting for Azami, hopefully, because I think Hokuzono can really cook when it comes to their characters. And again, you bring up a great point where like we shouldn't expect these guys to be, even if they're childhood friends, we shouldn't expect this relationship right now to look like exactly what it ends up looking like 20 years later, right? Or 18 years later. It could be, it could be that they were always like this with each other, and it does make sense, right? Those type of relationships and friendships exist, but there's a lot that can be done here, and I'm just looking forward to that.
Yeah, facts. And there's gonna be a day where I'm gonna have to write out a Shiba apology form. That day ain't today though. I know this, like I said, this flashback arc is gonna do numbers for his character. I do agree that, like, objectively, that I just feel like that is where it's headed. And is there gonna be slanders to still be said along the way? Of course.
Hell yeah.
Any shortage of Shiba slander here?
You think this is about writing?
About an hour and a half on Shiba.
Yeah.
But like there is a lot of things, and these like developments that we're kind of expecting are gonna be wrapped around a lot of other like subcontext that we weren't even aware of. There's just, and I think those things are what's really going to be like the substance of the Seitei War arc. Because like the things that we know we need answered, we know those will get taken care of in due time. It's more along the lines of like the ride to get there is the like exceptional part of the journey. Because there's so, like, even in these first 2 chapters, it's just so much like substance that we didn't even really like think about, or maybe some people did, but as a collective, or at least for myself, it kind of is giving me a different outlook to some degree on the pieces on the board.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. Things are evolving and changing really quickly, and each chapter gives us so much context and tidbits. Again, we haven't really speculated a whole lot on the Princess Soga's prophecy side of things, but to what you're saying, when it comes to pieces on the board, let's kind of segue to the last piece, at least in terms of this chapter, that we get added to the board. And again, it's a character that we know already, but it seems like in this arc we're really going to dive into who he is and just how exactly he became a blade wielder, what made him qualified. You already touched on this a bit, but Japan being a sword-centered society, there were it says here a number of swordsmiths is well over 2,000 and counting the no names, right? And of these, the state recognizes the artisans representing the nation's highest level of excellence as living treasures of Japan. In Japan's history, there have only been 3. And this man, I don't know who the hell he thinks he is, Subaru Urita, well, he knows exactly who he is. He's one of those artisans or treasures of Japan, right? And so far, I mean, we've seen Kunishige wield a sword, like he knew his way around the sword at the very least. But I think this is the first guy who we officially know was both like a respected swordsmith as well as a swordsman. Now I don't know where his sword skills are at this specific point right now, but I would assume he's fairly proficient, right? So what do you think, what do you expect to see kind of from Subaru, especially, like I said, him being the first kind of swordsman and swordsmith that we see kind of respected and glazed in such a fashion? What do you think?
Well, on the middle of the week theory stream we had with No Op, I think that the first enchanted blades it's his. He's gonna get the first one.
I can see
that was my
that
theory then. And I mean, now this chapter drops, and that just kind of like furthers that agenda. I think because there is not a lot of time to prepare for the war, like make these swords and all that, I think he's a legit sword master, like by this point, like
Agreed.
Far exceeding most. So he's already, like, I think every sword master that took place in the war were already like a sword master. That's why Rakuya, there's no time to like really train to become one like Chihiro took time to.
Well, that's true. I'm sorry, I blanked on that. Yes, we already know that they were respected master swordsmen by the time they went into the war. Excuse me. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, true. Sorry, go ahead.
But he's like, one thing though, there's one panel that bothers me about him, and I just like, it just hit me. He kind of took a huge like loss of aura, when that one panel of him standing next to Hasumi. On that one, why is Hasumi towering over his ass?
He's a short king. Stop it. He's a short king.
He's 4'15", 260. Like this
Stop
dude
it.
Like his up close, like, bro, I've never seen like someone like a camera like pan out, and like as the further it goes away from the person, like the more aura he loses. God damn.
Hey, I think it's cool. We got a short king among the enchanted blade bearers. No, I know. I'm just being funny.
It looked like Mario, like Mario and Luigi right there in that panel.
Oh God. Oh God. No,
bro. Thrag would be rolling in his grave.
I peeped that, bro. I was like, yeah, this is short. We got a short king wielding an enchanted blade.
He's cute. The cutest enchanted blade swordsman.
Oh God.
He's pocket sized.
Bite-sized.
Yeah, maybe his sword will allow him to like grow. Yeah, partial expansion.
It's the aura that kind of gives him the extra, additional height.
Like, when you yeah, I mean, maybe that's why you got a flat top. Give him a couple extra inches. And hey, fellas, we could all use extra couple inches. Am I right?
Cheers.
But no, he got that shit on for real though. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting, especially if Hokuzono does go down the journey of, or down the road of, he also trained Kunishige in swordsmithing. And you're like, okay, so we know he isn't passionate about making swords at this point in his life. Sushi is like what's got his heart, and sushi could always be his thing. And, maybe his brothers who trained Kunishige or something like that. And that's how he knows Kunishige. It's like, oh, you were my brother's pupil. And, that's just kind of parallel. Like I said, there's so many different ways he could go. It could just be kind of a red herring and they don't know each other yet. Well, it's interesting that he does bring up Kunishige's apprenticeship. And then we also meet this guy, the, enchanted blade wielder, who also happens to be a legendary swordsmith.
Yeah, that's it for me. That's it for me, and as well as like when it comes to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Or like his brother, I was about to say maybe his brother is one of the other jewels of Japan.
Well, that's a good point.
Treasures of Japan.
Yeah, I mean he's one of three, right? And I do wonder if we're gonna get into who those other two are, because I could. If we go by Occam's razor, right? Like if we're being told this is very likely that we will find out by the end of this arc who those other two are. But I could also see a situation or a scenario where it's not really that important, and all you need to know is that this guy is one of those guys. Because again, when it comes to the relationship with Kunishige, it almost seems like it's right there. Like it's right there in terms of like what the connection between Subaru and Kunishige could be. Like it's so easy if you just like, yeah, he was the one that trained him, and that's why there's a level of trust. That's why he could be the first enchanted blade wielder, and why he was selected, right? So it almost feels like it would be too easy, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just feel like it would work, but we have yet to see, right? So let's not get ahead of ourselves. But right now, I do think that it is very plausible and it makes a lot of sense. And I would not be surprised at all if that's what we're working towards. And then the dynamic.
Shikoku lost. They got fucking Viltrumites on their side, on Japan's side.
I think the perspective that we're gonna get from Subaru, I think it's gonna be so refreshing because we've talked about like these other blade bearers, and most of them were on the younger side. Again, we've seen Samura. Even though Azami and Shiba aren't blade bearers, we see like how they were moving and at around a similar age, right? We've seen Soga, kind of like what his personality was like. We haven't really seen a lot of Misaka, of Ibuki, but we have an idea from that one kind of like narration and flashback. I knew you just had something to say. But yeah, ultimately to wrap up this point is that I think we're going to get a very fresh perspective from like a more senior, Jesus, I'm talking about like he's on, he belongs at a home or something, but
yeah,
and
dialysis.
But it's just a more mature and older guy. And again, even I don't know how much of that I believe, because like his priority seems to be clearly somewhere else. Right? Like this guy tells him like, yo, this is a national project. And this is still like,
shut your short ass up and get cooking, ho.
Yeah, bro, like being a treasure, like being a living treasure of Japan is a side job for him, like Hasumi says. Crazy. So this guy is, like, even
hey,
at
little
his
guy,
age,
you get lost, where's your mom at?
Yeah, even at his age,
Subaru Rita.
He's pretty unserious, right? But I do think we'll get a different perspective, especially if he's the one that mentored Kunishige. And again, I just think that there's a lot that you can do with it, like you can do there in terms of with Kunishige as a character and him potentially having looked up to somebody. Again, it's all about like Hokuzono's intentions with these characters and how much exactly he wants to flesh them out. We've talked a bit about this, and I've talked with some of the other creators as well. Like I keep going back and forth in terms of how much Kunishige is going to be fleshed out as a character, So we'll see. We'll see. I feel like I've said that a lot this episode, but it's true.
There's a lot of that in Kagurabachi, because there's like Hokuzono leaves himself so much room to play with.
But yeah.
But one thing about Subaru's perspective that bothers me is we're just gonna see everyone at like chest height because he's not tall enough to look.
Stop! Oh my.
That's one thing I don't know if I like.
Oh my god!
I can see the dynamic. Kunishi is gonna come in there and start like, showing his expertise, and Subaru's gonna be like, "Oh no! You think I'm a treasure of Japan? That kid right there is like, Apex is me," and he's gonna be like, "Yo, I'll go make some sushi for you. Go fire up that forge. Go create a nuke for me. I'm gonna go get you the most bomb ass sushi."
Hey man, cook. Like I'm here for that, bro. Them staying up late at night.
Be like, kicking their feet, talking about Chiaki and the others. Right.
I was more so thinking like drawing the schematics, forging the blades, but yeah, that too.
Yeah. Kicking their feet up, giggling. Shiba, nowhere to be found.
We're no better than them, man. We're just as unserious, man.
Yeah, that's true. But no, I can imagine him saying like, because him being he wants to cook, he wants to do his sushi.
Yeah, that's true.
Is damn near about to die of starvation. Like,
that's a good point.
You got fire ass food here. As long as you get to work, we got this. We're gonna lock in.
Don't fuck this up. I got you.
And then Subaru's gonna be like, "Wait, where's my stool at? So I can see over the counter."
Oh my god, bro. Oh my god. I hate you.
Man, it's so man. But no, I do like his character. I'm really looking for. I didn't really care much for Subaru, to be honest. Like his design at first, Like, I didn't think he looked bad or anything, but I was just like, oh, he's gonna be that hardened, grizzled, ornery old man. But that motherfucker, he got that shit on. Like, I love, they always glaze the fuck out of the sword bearers on their reveals to some degree. I mean,
that's true.
Like, no one likes Subaru though. Oh my god. I mean, he's still getting glazed to this day. Like, that motherfucker died, and guess what? He's gonna be resurrected from cat litter. And it's gonna, but just wait on it. And it's gonna be fire.
But you're right, because we saw, like, obviously there's the legend of the Phoenix. Even bum ass Ibuki got like the weather quotes.
Hold up now. Ibuki slander is what we don't do around here. That's the one character that's off limits.
Hey, there's no characters off limits in here, bro. You know that?
That's true.
Nah, but real,
because Ibuki better not fuck up, because I got some for his ass too. If he fuck, I'm just that's my goat.
No, but to your credit, I think Hokuzono does a really good job of, like, you know, these characters a lot of the time are kind of presented as like very clear stereotypes, and then he finds a way to like kind of add wrinkles to who they are by either making them very charismatic, adding like layers to the character, like we saw with Samura. You know, so I can see something similar clearly being done here with Subaru, right? In terms of, like, again, his like desire to just want to make sushi, and that being where his priorities lie. One thing I do want to point out, which is obvious because we see it, but I wasn't expecting this, and it's that the scar isn't didn't come from the war. So he had this scar beforehand. We might not ever know where it really came from. It's not really all that important, but could potentially be like big for his character if he is to be fleshed out, like, say, Samura was, right? Which you and me have been vocal about no other blade bearer being fleshed out, you know, the way Samura was in his whole character arc. But, you know, even if it is something like what we've seen with Uruha, which I still believe we're definitely going to get more of, and his character is going to be explored way more, whether it's in this flashback arc or back in present day. You know, I am wondering, you know, where did this scar come from? You know, we know that they were throwing shit at Kunishige, so you think Subaru also got whacked?
5'4" king get a scar like that, you know? Like, he gotta be 5'4".
You got any more left? Any more of those left in the chamber?
Well, a couple actually. Like, you think that's a child-size headband he's wearing?
God, Tiberius.
Like, is he wearing a small, or is that a kid's large gi that he's wearing?
I'm gonna stay out of this one.
Is his sushi equipment like regular size, or does he have like the kids that so they don't cut themselves type of thing?
I'm staying out of this one.
I'm really dogging on this dude, considering I was like glazing the shit out of him in the beginning. That panel just I'm fucking with it just for the jokes. But I'm really I do think it's kind of, I'm buying into my own like theory that he's gonna, you know, whatever his relationship is to Kunishige, if any, but the dynamic of him wanting to make sushi, Kunishige is you know, what's the word?
Hungry, starving.
Hungry, starving. No,
Are you gonna dog on him? Okay.
Man, no, I don't really know. I'm trying to be politically correct here, you know?
Oh, politically correct. Gotcha.
Oh, he's unhoused. Kunishige is the closest thing to being unhoused. You know what I mean? Like, he's literally like a feral dog eats better than Kunishige. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that dude's literally like he's literally like damn near on E. So the fact you got a sushi chef that only really cares about sushi, doesn't even care about like being this like one of 3 legends of Japan's history. He don't give fuck all about that.
Yeah.
He's like, where the kitchen at? And you know, I do think I do buy into that theory. That's one theory that I'm kind of do feel strong about. But other than that though, I mean, I really like this chapter. I like this chapter more than I liked last chapter. And you know, not to put any expectations, but Hokuzono's just kind of put himself like into like a comfortable seat to like give himself to have like enough reveals or enough like substance in each chapter of this flashback, and like to make the most of it, to like give us, there's all these chapters are just gonna feel special to us, and obviously, even if he drops a chapter that's a miss, down the line, I mean, you can't really expect anyone to you know what I mean, just pump out constant bangers is what I'm saying. But in the sense of what Hokuzono has pre-established and where he's showing us his vision is going, I feel very comfortable that this arc is gonna land even better than I hope.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. There's a lot of talk in terms of how long this arc is gonna be. Some people have very high expectations. Others are, seem to be satisfied with, anywhere between 20 and 30 chapters. Go ahead.
I don't care how long it is. I'm just excited for what Hokuzono's vision is and what he has to show us. It could be 8 chapters. I'm literally about to get death threats for saying some shit like that. But I'm just saying, I trust Hokuzono more than ever. Not saying I never didn't, but I haven't had more faith in a mangaka delivering a arc than I have right now. And that says a lot. Because there's so much to at play, and of course there's going to be things I don't like in this flashback, and I'll tell you about them. I'm pretty open about the shit I don't like, but I'm really just enjoying these first 2 chapters way more than I thought I possibly could. Just an introduction to this, you know what I mean? We haven't even seen anything yet, and it's so much in it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Whether it's obviously I'm not let me kind of pick my words carefully here, but at the end of the day, I think this arc will properly kind of fulfill its purpose, right? I think it's going to answer
faith in Hokuzono. Chat.
I think it's going to answer the questions that we have and what we've been looking towards. But like I said, I keep going back and forth in terms of just how deep we're going to go, because there is so much on the table. And it's really, really high expectations if you think everything is going to be tackled and answered here, right? In terms of the secrets and the mysteries of the Seitei War and all these important characters and their backgrounds and their arcs and everything, and right? But I don't
think it will.
When it's all said and
my bad, I was cutting you off.
No, when it's all said and done, at the end of the day, I think this arc is going to work for what it's supposed to be, whether it's 60 chapters, which is something I've entertained it being really cool, or whether it's more alongside a hidden inventory and Hokuzono focuses on the very important pockets of events. I wouldn't be surprised if next chapter things are moving quick and boom, it's the start of the war, right? So we're gonna have to keep an eye out in terms of how things unfold and the pacing of this arc. But I agree with you, bro. I Hokuzono, at least 2 chapters in, has given me all the confidence in the world to, I said, say and think that I think this chapter is going to do its job, regardless its length. Now, obviously I think there's a minimum, right? I don't think everything can be tackled in 8 chapters, right? And I know you just threw out a random number, but however Hokuzono decides to handle it, I have full faith. And hey man, something as subtle as Subaru being introduced as a sushi chef, there's no enchanted blades around at this time, but narration can always kind of do its own thing. But there is no mention of the enchanted blade here, and he is presented as who he is in this moment. And I think it's subtle things like that kind of let us know that Hokuzono plans on properly fleshing out these characters. Now, again, I'm not saying that this is going to be done in 20 chapters just for Subaru and Piki's going to get the same treatment and this and that. I just think that Hokuzono has a very clear vision for this arc. And I know there's been a lot of talk, and I'm not exactly sure how true this is, but I've seen people say that it's been confirmed that Hokuzono had this story mapped out for the most part, except for the final arc, was something I read. Again, take this with a grain of salt. I'm not sure if this is exactly true, but it definitely feels like that. It definitely feels, and Kagurabachi so far up to this point has felt like a very cohesive story with a very clear direction, with a plan. And so I expect Hokuzono to keep it up, man. I really do.
Yeah, and I don't think we're gonna get as much answered as we probably want, to be honest, like, or most people think. I think it's more just about, you know, like, we're gonna get a good bit, but the thing is, like, it's more just I'm willing to accept, like, I have no get like no stock into like put how long I want this to be. I couldn't care less, to be honest with you, because like the fact of being so comfortable and confident in Hokuzono, like, um, give it, like, just letting him cook. Basically, that's the whole thing. Like, if you say let Hokuzono cook, but then you get mad if this arc does end in 15 chapters, you're basically like not you don't want you're not letting him cook then, because like whatever he does present to us in this arc, it's just gonna be like further. He has a vision to like flush it out later in the story. There's a different aspect that we might not know at this point, and it will get like flushed out in Soga, seeing more of Soga in the present time, or like through Chihiro actually talking to Pinky and Subaru in the present time. So there's still like a lot of different ways that some things can be handled. So I just trust that Hokuzono like just has a firm grasp of what his vision is. And if it's 20, cool. If it's 40, cool. If it's 100, maybe I'm starting to be like, all right now. Like that's it, like just being comfortable in his vision and knowing that like whatever he does, there's a reason for it, and he'll like lay it out. And by the way, I've also brought up issues with the whole term "let Hokuzono cook."
I know.
Maybe I just saw this chapter just kind of like let me see that there's confidence in that statement, that he will pay off the things that has been presented in the story previously. Sure, they might not get done here, but he will get to that. But I mean, I just realized we've been going over an hour. The last couple episodes we've been really going.
Yeah, well, I mean, again,
the excitement for like the war,
Hey, to what you're saying, I think Hokuzono has done a great job just giving us a lot to talk about, really. And you just brought up Soga. I said that we would kind of get into more like the theories and speculation side of things. We can, we don't have to really spend too much time on this, but I guess this is the time for that. Like, what are you kind of like looking at right now in terms of the Soga clan? I know you said that the princess thing could just be a nickname. I honestly don't think that's the case. We know that the royal family is a Shikoku thing, right? But I think we've seen Hokuzono kind of previously plant the seeds when it comes to these sort of things in a certain way. And to me, at least, this is what it feels like here, especially with like talks of a prophecy. Like, dude, we've talked about like Yura and the potential of that actually being a prophecy and him potentially having the clairvoyant sorcery, yada yada yada. But like now we actually have like a legitimate prophecy that seems to be implied here. I guess I just want to get your thoughts on the whole thing and any theories if you got anything cooking up.
Not really. Aside from everything I talked about earlier, just kind of like first thoughts on like the couple statements we have of her. I think when we actually see her on panel, like the reunion of her and Kunishige, and that's gonna be do numbers for like the theorists. That's gonna really play into like seeing their dynamic exactly how it is. We see how Kunishige is. He's kind of a man child, so she's either got to be like so like loving that she can like look past all that and just accept him, or she has to be a real hard ass to like really be like whip him into shape, but like he kind of like needs that in his life type of thing. And not saying that doesn't mean she's a bad person. She could just be real strict with him because that's what he needs, like Keiko with Yusuke from Yu Yu Hakusho. She's kind of like a nice sweet girl, but she be giving Yusuke the shit. Like, so I mean, it's going to be interesting to see their dynamic. I don't really have any theories. Like the princess thing could just be, it could actually be like a title, but we, in the Soga clan, I think it's seeing just the structure of the Soga clan. I think that is what I'm like really looking forward to. How tied are they to like the government? Like how much influence do they have? that's one of the things that's just really up in the air that we just don't know, because we have no, like, literally zero information about the Soga clan as a whole in present time. So it's gonna be interesting to see how like Hokuzono kind of like weaves through this like this reveal, and like what happened to him, where and all those things. So I don't really have an exact theory just yet. The princess thing, that's just more along the line of maybe it's just how they tease her a little bit, because she's like the first daughter.
Yeah, I can see that as well. Before I give my thoughts, I guess I have another question for you. Do you think this prophecy connects in any sort of way to what Yura had brought up? Now, I know that's on the surface, it might just immediately seem unlikely, but considering that Yura knew about the contracts, it seems like Yura knew a lot more than what we know he knew. Do you think there's any, and I don't really remember what was the context when Yura had brought up the prophecy. I probably should have looked into that before we recorded. But my question is, do you think there's any sort of connection there?
I don't.
Personally. Okay, that's fair. No, that's fair. That's completely fair. Yeah, I'm like you, man. I don't really have any big theories in terms of Chiaki and this whole prophecy stuff. I'm with you. I think it's very clear that the Soga clan, like we brought up earlier, is very important to the overall government and these kind of people in charge, let's just call it, right? What role exactly the Soga clan plays, it's going to be very interesting to see, because like I said, we don't really know a whole lot about the government in the world of in Japan within Kagurabachi itself, right? Like we know about the Kamunabi, we've heard of the counter sorcery army. Here we hear about like the sorcery bureau, but we don't exactly know how things kind of run. And I wonder if we're gonna get that perspective through Soga, and if we can take this princess title, like I said, literally, does that make Soga Akamura, a prince? Like this dude, I'm really like looking forward to seeing this guy, Akamura's story fleshed out, because it seems like he had everything going for him, right? Like sword saint, potentially a prince. Again, if we are to take this literal, then his parents, whether they were actually like king and queen, like what's going on here? And again, like you said, if it is just kind of like a nickname for Chiaki, like, oh look, it's the princess, then yeah, everything is just kind of like brushed away. But I don't know, man. There's even more questions now surrounding Akamura Soga and again his upbringing in that clan. Yeah, I'm itching for that, man. I think that's definitely top three, if not the at the top of the list in terms of what I'm really looking forward to in this arc, aside from Kunishige specifically. It's Akamura, man. It's Akamura, and it feels like every chapter we're getting another tidbit that kind of like makes us take a step back and be like, yo, hold up. What's going on here? And now it starts to make sense why. And maybe I'm just kind of connecting dots here that shouldn't really be connected, but like it makes a lot more sense now why he got a whole ass statue made, right? Especially if that could have something to do with like his clan pulling the strings or whatever, if they're even still around, because we also entertained the idea of his clan having been wiped out and Chiaki along with them. And that kind of being, and I'll give you full credit because you were the one that brought this up to me, and that being the panel that we saw at the end of part 1 when Nakamura's holding baby Chihiro and there's blood, everywhere. It could have just been that, right? The wiping of the Soga clan, the unfortunate death of Chiaki, and Nakamura just kind of taking that turn, or reaching this point of no return. And yeah, and let me stop before I start yapping, but yeah, man, good stuff. I really like this chapter as well, and I'm sat, bro. Like you said, I'm really looking forward to what Hokuzono's cooking, and yeah, man, let him cook. Let him cook indeed.
Yeah, facts. Kunishige's gonna tell Subaru the same thing. Yo, let him cook, please. Like, I'm hungry.
That's what he's gonna tell the officials. Like, yo, just let him make sushi, bro. I'll deal with the Datsenseki shit.
Yeah.
That's funny, man. Good talk, man. Good conversation. Yep. This is a fun,
always
fun chapter and fun episode, really.
Yeah, we yapped on this one for real.
Just a bit.
But
Just a
it's a
bit.
good, yeah, just a bit. But no, it was lit chapter. You know, we'll have a chapter next week. Same, you know, the usual. We'll see about a midweek chapter theory stream. We'll see what happens. I mean, we really don't know if we're gonna do those streams until like Wednesday morning usually, or maybe Tuesday night. But just be on the lookout for that. And you got any closing statements or thoughts, Dice?
No, like I say from time to time, go off in the comments. Let us know your theories. You know, sometimes those comments kind of like make us think and do give us like more to talk about and might kind of like be the reason why we end up kind of going on stream, right? So I always like to hear from the listeners and the people tapping in and seeing like where their head is at. And yeah, let's see if we have more to talk about in the middle of the week, man. Appreciate y'all.
Yep. You know, drop your comments on how tall you think Subaru is, and
Oh
we'll catch y'all next
no.
week. Peace.
Peace.